the Hermit, who defied the village to protect two baby Bigfoots. They said the mountains around Copper Creek held secrets no man should ever uncover. On stormy nights, hunters swore they heard cries echoing through the snow. Too human to be animal, too wild to be human. Some said it was the wind. Others whispered it was the sound of the Bigfoots mourning in the blizzard. But one man, one forgotten soul named Eli Turner, the hermit of the snowy mountains, would come face to face with the truth. Eli was no stranger to loss. Years ago, a storm like this one had stolen his wife and taken his little daughter in his very arms. He withdrew from the world, letting the forest and the cold winds bury him in silence. To the villagers, he was a madman, an old ghost who spoke only to snow and fire. Yet one night, as the wind screamed like 100 wolves, Eli heard a different sound. Not the crack of a tree, not the howl of a beast. It was a cry, faint, fragile, the cry of little ones left to die in the storm. And in that moment, Eli Turner faced the choice that would change everything. Would he walk away and save his own life? Or would he defy the hatred of the village and risk everything to protect two helpless beings the world called monsters? This is not just a tale of snow and silence. It is the story of a man haunted by grief who found the strength to become a father once more, and of a mother fierce as the storm itself who would stop at nothing to reclaim her children. Tonight we follow Eli Turner into the blizzard where fear collides with compassion, where legends rise from the snow, and where one man's kindness may light the only fire strong enough to survive the storm. Before we begin, tell us where you're watching from. Drop the name of your city in the comments. And when the story ends, don't forget to rate it from 0 to 10. Subscribe and tap the bell so you won't miss the next Wild West bedtime story. Now, let the blizzard begin. Part 1. The Blizzard and the Secret in the Cabin. The wind roared like a pack of wild beasts chasing across the mountainside. Snow didn't just fall, it came down in heavy sheets lashing against the face like the strike of a whip. The entire forest lay buried in a vast, blinding white. At the far end of the valley stood an old wooden cabin, leaning under the weight of snow. Inside lived a man the people of Copper Creek still called Eli Turner, the hermit of the snowy mountains. Eli was past 70 now. His silver beard was often matted stiff by wind and frost, and his thin, calloused hands never seemed to stop trembling from the cold. He had lived alone for many years like a wandering ghost left behind in the wilderness. They said he once had a wife and a little girl, that he had been strong, once full of life. But a blizzard long ago had taken it all away. His wife froze to death. His daughter died in his arms because he couldn't reach help in time. From that night on, Eli turned his back on the world, choosing the forest as his home and the snow as his only companion. And tonight the storm had returned. Eli knew he needed more firewood, or the cabin fire would never last till morning. He pulled on his heavy coat and stepped out, each stride sinking to his knees in snow. His axe felt heavy in his hands, and each strike against the logs echoed like the mournful cry of the mountains. Through the howl of the storm he froze. There was another sound, a faint, trembling cry. At first he thought it was just a branch breaking, but listening closely he realized it was something else, a cry, thin and fragile, the cry of a small life abandoned to the cruel winter night. Eli's chest tightened. Memories came flooding back, his daughter's weak sobs during a fever, her tiny hand reaching for him, and that final moment when her breath faded in his arms, a wound that had never healed, torn open once more. He let the axe drop and stumbled toward the sound. The storm whipped his face raw, but he pressed forward, lantern flickering weakly in his grip. The glow swept over snow-covered brush, and then he saw them. Beneath a fallen tree trunk curled tight in the ice were two strange little beings, small and fragile fur a pale gray, their wide eyes wet with tears, their breaths shallow as if slipping away. They were not human children. They were baby Bigfoots, the very creatures the villagers spoke of with fear and hatred. Eli froze. His mind screamed, "Don't do it. Leave them. If you bring them back, they'll call you guilty." They'll burn your cabin to the ground with these creatures inside." But his heart cracked wide open. The smaller one lifted its eyes to him, stretching out a tiny furred hand, pleading for only one thing to be saved. Eli fell to his knees in the snow, tears spilling hot against the cold. His heavy coat shook on his shoulders. He remembered his daughter's little hand, the hand he could not hold on to. A sob broke loose from his chest. He pulled off his coat, wrapped it tightly around the two little ones, and pressed them against his heart so his warmth could reach them. "No, I will not leave you," he whispered, his voice hoarse with cold and sorrow. "Tonight I will do what I could not do for my daughter." He staggered to his feet, clutching the two close, and made his way back toward the cabin. Each step fought against the mountain's weight, as if the storm itself wanted to bury him. But far ahead, the faint golden light of the cabin flickered like a lighthouse in a sea of white. Inside, he laid them on the worn rug before the fire. Their breathing was so faint it made his heart ache. He quickly warmed the last of the goat's milk he had, feeding them drop by drop. At first they resisted, their eyes wild, but soon one gave in, sipping weakly, eyes fluttering. The other followed. Only then did Eli let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. He sank down onto the wooden floor, his body shaking from exhaustion. He pulled blankets over them and carefully laid his rough, trembling hand on one of their tiny, furry hands. Suddenly, the little one placed its hand over his, giving the faintest squeeze. Just a small squeeze, yet it shattered something deep inside him. Eli wept. Hot tears traced down his weathered face. For so many years he had believed his life no longer held meaning. Yet here in these strange little beings, he felt something stir again. He felt like a father once more. That night, Eli did not sleep. He sat by the fire, watching the two little ones breathe their fragile chests, rising steadier with each passing hour. The firelight flickered across the cabin walls, pushing back shadows, pushing back the grief that had haunted him for decades. Outside, the storm still raged. But inside that lonely cabin, another fire had been kindled, the fragile flame of hope, of a heart thought frozen, now burning once more. Part 2. The Villagers, the Mother Bigfoot, and the Choice of Life and Death. The next morning, as Eli tended the fire, he noticed something unusual. The snow outside his cabin didn't only bear his footprints, there were others. Heavy boot marks pressed deep into the frozen crust. His heart sank. The villagers had come close. Copper Creek was a small settlement that lived on hunting and logging. To them, Bigfoot was no harmless legend but a threat. They believed those towering creatures destroyed forests, killed game, even carried children away. For generations, whenever the snows grew thick, hunting parties were formed, armed with rifles, torches, and iron nets to wipe out the monsters. Eli pulled back the curtain with a trembling hand. In the white blur outside, he glimpsed figures moving. Men pointing, whispering, gesturing toward his cabin. His chest thudded heavy. He knew if they discovered the two little ones, their fate would be sealed. He turned back. The young ones were still huddled by the fireplace, wide-eyed, clutching their blanket. They had no idea what danger pressed in, only that they should cling tighter to each other, frightened as any children would be of strangers. Eli knelt down before them, meeting their gaze. "You must be silent. No matter what happens, don't make a sound." His voice broke as he spoke. It felt like he was back in that long-ago storm, telling his daughter to hide under the bed. Only this time he swore he would not let death reach them again. By late afternoon there came a knock, heavy pounding like hammers striking wood. Eli did not answer. He stood frozen, his hand gripping the axe. Outside, a stern voice barked, "Turner, there are tracks around your place. We believe the monsters are hiding here. Open the door and let us search." Eli shut his eyes tight. If he opened that door, the little ones were lost. He shouted back through the crack, "There's nothing here, only an old man freezing to death. Go home." Murmurs rose among them. Another voice growled, "You've always been strange, Turner. Have you gone mad if you're hiding something? You'll pay for it." At last their steps retreated into the storm, but Eli knew they would return. The people of Copper Creek never gave up easily. especially now that rumors spread baby Bigfoots were seen near Turner's cabin. The second night, the baying of hounds filled the air. Eli blew out the lamp and pressed the little ones tight against his chest. Torchlight swept across the window, red flares slicing into the cabin. Voices carried sharp and cold. "Tomorrow night we'll be back. They won't escape this time." Eli sat motionless. The children's breaths fluttered against his chest. He knew if he did nothing by tomorrow, they would die before his eyes, and he would die with them. Yet inside, something fierce had awakened. This time, he would fight. On the third night, the storm was at its worst. The forest howled, drowning in wind and snow. Yet still the villagers came, more than 20 men carrying rifles, machetes, and iron nets. Their hunting dogs barked furiously and torches blazed, lighting up the mountainside in fiery streaks. Eli opened the door and stepped out. He stood in front of the cabin, frail but unyielding. His silver beard whipped in the wind and his eyes burned like embers. One hand clutched the axe, the other held the two small creatures close against him. "Step aside, Turner," one hunter shouted. "You can't protect them. Tonight, we end the Bigfoot legend once and for all." But Eli did not move. His voice, hoarse yet thunderous, tore through the storm. "If you want them, you'll have to kill me first." The metallic click of a rifle being cocked cut the air. The crowd stirred, anger rising. And then the ground trembled. Snow burst upward in swirls. A roar thundered across the valley, silencing every voice. From the white curtain of the blizzard, a towering figure emerged, eyes glowing golden in the night. The mother Bigfoot. She was massive, majestic, shoulders broad as a wall breath rolling out in heavy clouds, her silvery mane whipping in the gale. The villagers screamed. Some stumbled back, torches dropping into the snow. Yet she did not attack. Step by step, she walked forward, straight toward Eli. The two little ones wriggled from his arms, rushing through the snow. Their cries rang out frail but full of life. They leapt into her embrace. The giant mother knelt, gathering them against her chest. She lifted her head and her eyes met Eli's. There was no hatred there, no fury, only a deep, wordless gratitude. The villagers stood frozen. For the first time, they did not see a monster. They saw a mother finding her children, a moment of humanity shining in the coldest storm. Eli let the axe fall. His voice trembled but carried clear. "Go, survive, protect them." The mother Bigfoot bowed her head, an act of respect, of thanks. Then she turned, vanishing into the storm, with her little ones held safe in her arms. Silence fell. The villagers lowered their torches, their guns. No one spoke. They were shaken, bewildered. That image, the old hermit guarding fragile lives and the great beast weeping in reunion, would haunt them forever. Eli remained on the cabin steps. Snow settled into his hair, his eyes blurred with tears. He whispered, "I lost one family, but tonight I saved another." In the faint glow of the firelight, his face softened. The blizzard still screamed beyond the walls, but in his chest a new flame burned. For the first time in decades, Eli felt truly alive. In a world filled with fear and suspicion, kindness remains the only light to guide the way. Before we go further, leave the name of your city in the comments. And when the story ends, remember to rate it from 0 to 10. Subscribe and tap the bell so you won't miss the next chapter.